Every day we're talking about the fiscal cliff. One day we're closer to getting a deal done, the next day further apart. So deal or no deal? Senior contributor Dan Dicker says embrace the cliff. Dan, embrace the cliff. We're hearing we should not embrace the cliff. How can we do this?
Well, I think that CNBC has gotten a little overwrought, as many of even Washington has gotten a bit overwrought about the consequences of not getting a deal going into the start of the year. Now, I don't misjudge the CBO. I think they're right. I think we're going to get maybe a negative 1.5% to 2% of GDP growth in the first 2 quarters of the year, but some of the things that we're getting with that are good things that we should really look for, that I think we should in fact embrace the cliff at this point.
But we're hearing sequestration cuts that will mean the end of many government contracts, companies going out of business, people losing their jobs. That can't be good.
Well, companies going out of business, I think that's also going too far. That's a bit overwrought. There will be an increase in unemployment. I think you will get maybe an increase of 1% or 1.5% in unemployment. I think that's short-lived, though. I think you only see that for 2 quarters. But think of the things that you get here, especially if you are a fiscal conservative, which Republicans claim to be. You get $800 billion over the course, or at least $650 billion, I should say, over 10 years in military cuts. Now, military cuts, we haven't had a military cut in this country in 30 years. And the truth is that that is one section of government spending that really could use a little bit of paring down. We fought a couple of wars. We really don't have anybody that we're pointing all these guns at anymore. And we really need to take a good look at the military budget. Sequestration does it automatically without going through a major long political fight between Republicans and Democrats, both of whom don't really want to cut the military budget. There's also going to be some cuts on the left-wing side of things that also might be pretty useful. We're going to get an end of the doc fix, which is something that gives to Medicaid providers an added bonus, which they may in fact not need. You're going to get an increase, for example, in the alternative minimum tax, the AMT. You're going to get that broadened out. There's something good about that. You're going to get a rollback of all the Bush tax cuts, which in my mind is fairer than just asking for the top 2% to get their Bush tax cuts rolled back. This way you get everybody's tax cut rolled back. That's a lot fairer when you're attacking a debt. So there's a lot of things that you can look at in this cliff to really like. And this is one thing where we can bet on the inability of Congress to do the right thing. And I'm always in favor of that, because you can always bet on Congress in not being able to do the right thing.
But won't we have a problem with the stock market? Because we saw when we thought we might shut the government down that there was a lot of negative reaction, and that could hurt the stock market. We're already hearing that people are selling stocks because of the dividend tax coming up.
Right. I think you're talking about TARP. When the TARP originally was proposed and it was not immediately passed by Congress, that there was a huge sell-off in the stock market until the Congress came together and said, okay, we'll approve TARP. But in this particular case, we haven't seen much of a drop in the stock market, despite the fact that most people know that there's a good chance we're going to go over the cliff, and despite the fact that a lot of cash is being put into these special dividends that you're talking about. So with those two things happening, and yet with the S&P at 1,400, my guess is maybe the market knows better than we do, that there's really not that deep of an economic problem, and at least for a couple of quarters, getting a little fiscal responsibility into the argument and going over the cliff.
Okay, well, clearly the politicians are running out of time. Most of them go away for the holidays, so we're getting, end of December, maybe December 21st, Mayan calendar, end of days, end of the fiscal cliff decision.
I don't think is that a coincidence?
Is that a coincidence?
Hard to know. But the truth is, you're right. What there is a president who must have a marginal tax increase in his plan, and a Republican Congress who, for the most part, because of Grover Norquist, cannot abide a marginal tax increase. So the chances of them finding a deal in such a short period of time, I think, is very small. So in fact, whether you like it or not, let's embrace the cliff. We're going over.